Now, that was verse 14. Let's go on to verse 15 and kind of break this down a little bit. This is my name forever. Exodus verse 15, chapter 3, verse 15. And Elohim said further to Moshe, let's stop right there a second. And Elohim said further. So that denotes something right there. It's telling us that I didn't conclude yet. I have something more. And Elohim said further to Moses, thus you are to say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yishak, and the Elohim of Yaakov, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations. Now, when he says, this is my name forever, when he says, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, Yod, He, Vav, He, which is the tetragrammaton, or the four letters, he says, or he is saying, this is my name, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. So what he did, he connected his name to a people. So, coming out of Egypt, he identifies himself with a people, with a person, Abraham, as well as Moses, and he also connects himself with the people. And he says, this is my remembrance to all generations. To all generations. That also means that the generations to come, because we haven't gotten to all yet. When heaven and earth cease to exist, and we have gone into eternity, that's when all generations will stop. But until that time has arrived, this is his remembrance to all generations. Let's go on. Okay, once again, if you are looking by PowerPoint, you'll be able to see this a little clearer. I have now the Hebrew from Exodus chapter 3, verse 15, as it is written in the scroll. Now, on my own, I really can't read this well. I can read it some. I recognize more than I can read. But my point is, right in the middle is the name Yod, He, Vav, He. These symbols of Hebrew letters we can recognize as we go through this lesson, and if we had a scroll in front of us, you would be able to pick this out. Because if you've seen it once or twice, 3 or 4 times, wherever you see it, you will recognize it. Basically, when you're reading letters of any language, it's based on repetition. All you need to do is see it a few times. You begin to recognize it, and then you can pick it out from other letters. Now, the thing here is that if you're looking at this, on the top row, right above it, you have 2 symbols that looks like the first one looks like an X, the next one looks like somewhat like an L, which is called the Lamed, or look like a 7 with something on top of it. This is the longest letter in the Hebrew, very recognizable, and you will see this throughout the passage And the thing that strikes me is that this is written as you would see it in a scroll. And what I do not see is God, Lord, or deity. Neither one of those. Even though I'm not so sufficient in reading this, what I see is an Aleph, L, which means, or EL, which means L. Right away, I understand that. And then I also understand Aleph, Lamed, Hey, Yod, and closed Mem. That stands for Elohim. So, that brings up a very interesting point. What did God call himself? Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So, do we beat people over the head with this information and say, you cannot call him God? We have to let Elohim do this in his own time. And I think right now for us to learn his name is sufficient. And I think as we learn his name and give reverence to his name was hidden for a very specific reason. Just think. Look how we have defiled everything else. And if we had known his name for all these hundreds of years, how common would it be today? And how easy would it be put on someone's list of deities equal to their lords and their gods? All right, so Exodus, back to our English, Exodus 3:15 is a historical evidence of the name of the Most High proclaimed and given to Moses. Yod He Vav He is the most sacred name of Yah, which is a poetic form, Y-A-H, shortened form, in the Hebrew language, and it is not pronounced by the most Jews. It looks like the Hebrew word hayah, which is the verb to be. Jewish scholars believe that the name Yod He Vav He shows that the Creator is endless. Instead of trying to say it, most Jews say Hashem, which means the name. When spoken, the name is pronounced as Yahweh, or as some would say, Yehovah, or using a J sound, which is absent from the Hebrew Jehovah. Scholars of religion refers to Yod He Vav He as the Tetragrammaton, from the Greek words meaning 4 letters. All right, let's go back to something really quick. The rules for writing, or halakha. According to halakha, or rules for writing, consideration must be given as to the nature and audience receiving transliteration from the codex or scroll manuscript. What is the origin of the historic resources concerning biblical documentation? Now let's look at some documentation, and let's go back to their origins. The Dead Sea Scrolls are a collection of 972 documents, including texts from the Hebrew Bible, discovered between 1946 and 1956 in 11 caves around the ruins of the ancient settlement of Qumran on the northwest shores of the Dead Sea in the West Bank. Now, this is where every nation, realizing that the scriptures or the Bible is the best-selling on anybody's book list. It is translated into every language. So, where do we get our information from? Where has the information from Genesis to Revelation? Where have these items come to us from? Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, as I read, 972 documents. Some were, the first 7 were scrolls incomplete. They were complete, actually. But then you had bits and pieces of others. So with the different caves, they yielded many pieces of evidence, all pointing toward the same one true fact, that his name is Yahweh, in every scroll that was found. Now remember, 972. Some were whole scrolls, some were fragments, and you just had a whole bunch, but from different writers, different writings, and this must have been the place to safe store all of the scrolls that had been hidden away, some that may have had somewhat of a defect. When you use the name of the Most High, you do not make it common, nor do you defile it. So our Jewish brothers will not throw it away, they will not destroy it, but they will safely put it in a vase or earthen vessel, and they will bury it. So these were found not that many years ago, a little more than, 60 years back. And about 60 years, 1946 being the start. And with this kind of information coming forth, now we're getting to the essence of God's Word by having such proof of His existence. The Dead Sea Scrolls. Archaeologists and historical evidence indicates that the excavation settlement was founded in the second half of the 2nd century BCE. During the time of the Maccabees, a priestly Jewish family which ruled Judea in the 2nd and 1st century BCE. An interruption in the occupation of the site is linked to evidence of a huge earthquake. In other words, they found fragments and pieces of artifacts that help them date information. They know that there was some type of huge earthquake in this location, in this area. So they can kind of date things outside of what they found inside the Qumran caves. But putting everything together, they can kind of come up with a date as to how old the Dead Sea Scrolls are. In our last bullet, Qumran was abandoned about the time of the Roman incursion of 68 CE. 2 years before the collapse of the Jewish self-governed in Judea and the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 CE. Now, the Dead Sea Scroll, you can go out online and pull up a picture or some indicators of what it looks like. But it dates back to approximately 2,200 years. And we also have a second witness, which is the Leningrad Codex, which is approximately 100 years of age. And these two things together give us evidence.